Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to Germany once again, and we're going to have a look at another example of one of my favourite styles of German beer actually. I always enjoy trying different versions of this one. So for this review we are going to return to the town of Freising, which is to the northeast of Munich, home of course to Weihenstephan, but we're having a look at a different brewery for this one, who are not quite as well known. So for this review then we are going to go to Gräfliches Hofbrauhaus Freising, and we're having a taste of their Dunkel today, which comes in at 5.2% ABV. I can't remember where I got a hold of this beer, but you know, when I saw it was from Freising and I saw that it was a Dunkel, I thought I had to have a go at this one. But I have been to Freising before. I actually ate and drank in the Weihenstephan restaurant, and it was really nice. I would recommend that if you find yourself in Munich, take a little trip up to Freising, even if you're stopping off in Munich airport. Actually, it's a beautiful little town that's only 2 or 3 train stops away, so definitely worth doing if you get the chance. My cousin and I went to have a look at the Weihenstephan restaurant and things like that, which was very cool. So yeah, I'm interested to see how this one turns out. A brewery from a town that is more famous for a few other things actually, so we'll need to see how we get on with this one. But like I said, one of my favourite traditional German beer styles, and hopefully this is another good example in this one. A shout out in this video as well to my good friend Peter over at the Clueless Drinker. This is a style of beer that he is very fond of. He, like I, is a very big fan of the German traditional beers, so I'll put the link to his channel down in the description below, and make sure you check out his videos as well. He's got a very unique style, and I quite enjoy it, I have to admit. I quite enjoy listening to his reviews. But anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Gräfliches Hofbrauhaus Freising. Very first time I'm encountering one of their beers, of course. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the German beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to very regularly, of course, because I'm a huge fan of German beer. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Gräfliches Hofbrauhaus then. So this brewery is actually very old, and it's not too far away from Weihenstephan actually. But this brewery can be found in the town of Freising, as I mentioned to you earlier, to the northeast of Munich, very close to the main Munich airport. But the first historical mention of this brewery comes from the year 1160, when Bishop Albert I of Harthausen had been brewing beer in the Domberg monastery for the first time. And this is a very distinctive building in the town of Freising. You can't really miss it. And if I remember correctly, and if it's the building that I think it is, I'm sure that the Weihenstephan restaurant and bar and stuff is actually in there. So I've maybe actually been there before and not known that this brewery was originally housed there. And it's also home now to a gymnasium, or gymnasium as we would call it in Swedish. It's basically a high school, if you like. But the first documentary of this, after the first documentary mention of this brewery, there's not much else until around 1620, when Prince Bishop Veit Adam von Gepeck built a new brewery in the Philippsschloss. And this princely connection is actually what allows these guys to use the prefix Hof in their name. So if you see Hofbrau, or Hofbräu, whatever, it basically means princely beer or princely brewery. Kind of interesting. That's the first time I've encountered that. But when Germany was secularised, the Hofbrauhaus went to the Kingdom of Bavaria in 1803, and it was then acquired by Maria Leopolding in 1812, who passed it on to her son, Count Alois von Arco-Steppenberg. And when he died in 1891, his daughter, the Countess Sophie von Moyes de Sons, took over the brewery, and it then became known as the Gräfliches von Moyesches Hofbrauhaus, if I've pronounced that correctly. And so today, the name of this brewery, the Gräfliches Hofbrauhaus Freising, it's basically the Countessly, princely brewery of Freising. So it's kind of very unusual name actually, the Gräfliches Hofbrauhaus Freising, the Countessly, princely brewery of Freising. So yeah, first time I've come across one that's like that. But between 1911 and 1912, the brewery was moved to a new building that was constructed on Mainberger Strasse, and the brewery building was built to the technical specifications of Theodor Gansenmüller, who was a well-known professor at the Weihenstephan Brewing Academy at the time. And the building was actually designed by Gebrüder Rank, who are a big architecture firm from Munich, and it was built in I think think they said it was an Art Nouveau style or something like this, which was quite, it was you know, considered state of the art at the time, if you like. But since 1998, this brewery's been owned by the Touring family as part of the Bayerische Graf Brauerei, which is a bigger group. But this company produces the Hofbrauhaus beers, the Huberweisse beers, the Graf Touring beers, Graf Ignaz beers, and also the Karibik lemonades as well. So a brewery that was, you know, originally a kind of monastery brewery, if you like. Then it was taken into private ownership and owned by a bunch of princes and countesses and things like that. It's quite hard to keep track of the different royal families in Germany, because we know before was it 1868, I want to say, before Bismarck came along, Germany was very kind of fractured, and of course it was the King of Prussia who actually came along and united Germany in the late 1860s, early 1870s, if I remember correctly, and then, you know, Germany became the modern state that we know today. So it's quite difficult to keep track of all the different counts and all of this kind of thing that goes on in Germany. But quite a lot of them had breweries, which means they probably had a decent life, you have to say. But yeah, these guys have got, under the Hofbrauhaus Freising, there's quite a few different beers. I think there's about 7 or 8 different beers. There's Pils, there's Helles, Weizens, and you know, just basically the standard kind of German traditional styles of beer. So hopefully I can try a few more of those over the next little while. I don't think these guys had a Doppelbock, incidentally, but maybe under one of the other beer brands that the Touring family are doing, they will have one of those. So yeah, need to see. I think I've heard of Huberweisse as well, so I need to see if I can review one of those for you at some point. And that would be an interesting beer to try. Meiselweisse is another one that I need to try and review on the channel for you as well, another quite famous beer. But that's all you need to know about the brewery for just now. If you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website. Of course, that you'll find that in the description below. I'll see if they have Facebook and Instagram. Quite a few German breweries don't, but I'll put those links in the description for you below. And if you're interested in the different beers, you can check the website, or you can have a little look at the rate beer and Untappd pages. But there you can see on the artwork there, that is the Domberg in Freising, which, as I say, is a very, very distinctive building. Freising, of course, there's a big part of the Technical University of Munich, TU München, is housed up there, and that's a very, very famous university, actually, a very well respected school, that one of the big ones in Germany, along with the likes of Heidelberg, Freiburg, Köln, Leipzig, Rostock and things like that. Very well, it's probably the most respected out of the new universities in Germany, from what I gather. The other ones I mentioned are pretty old, and it was Heidelberg that I studied at. I had a great time there. But there you can see the Hofbrauhaus bottle cap on this one, really quite nice looking. I really like that. But yeah, without further ado then, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. A 5.2% Dunkel beer, a nice dark lager beer. So let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Nice little bit of smoke on the opening, and we'll get it out. Unfortunately, I don't have a half-litre Stein. I do have ones back in Scotland, and the next time I go home, which will probably be around February time, I'll make sure I bring out, I've got 2 Pilsner Urquell Steins, which are very similar to the German ones. They'll do the job, but unfortunately we're having to use a 0.3 litre Stein for the moment. But it will still, you know, it will still do the same job. You should drink these lager beers. These lager beers are supposed to be sessioned. We'll get rid of the brewery notes for the moment, but these lager beers are supposed to be sessions, so you should have a slightly thicker kind of rim on your glass and stuff, so that you gulp it a little bit, to be honest with you. But these lager beers, they can go down dangerously quickly, to be honest with you. But yeah, as you can see, and as you would expect from a Dunkel beer, this one is a nice sort of mahogany colour. If you shine the light through it, it's really quite nice and red. There's a solid quarter finger of a frothy, I would say sort of slightly fawny coloured head on this one. It's not really beige, but you can see quite a few big bubbles sticking towards the bottom of the glass there. The glass is pretty clean, so that's probably why, but the carbonation does look quite active in this one, to be honest with you. So but yeah, it might just be because the glass is clean, but nothing particularly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance. If you shine the light through it, this beer, it actually does have a bit of clarity to it. There is a bit of haze to it as well. It's not the most hazy Dunkel that you may come across, but it does, you know, it does come across really quite nicely, I have to say. But nothing overly surprising about this Dunkel in terms of its appearance. You can get them slightly redder, you can get them slightly darker than this, but it's definitely within the realms of possibility. So yeah, let's take a closer look at that aroma then and see how we get on with this one. Oh yeah, this one I think leans towards the kind of toasty brown sugars. And I always like this about these beer styles, when you try different examples of Dunkels and stuff, some of them come across as a little bit more bready. We should also mention you have the Czech versions of these beers as well. You've got the Cherny, which is the equivalent, the Czech equivalent. of a German Dunkel. The Tmavi is the Schwarzbier, the Svetli is the Helles, and of course you've got the Leitzach as well, which is the same as a Vienna lager. But this one is this one comes across very, very nicely in its aroma. Definitely some nice kind of brown bready notes in there. You've got a little undertone of a slightly woody, kind of nutty kind of thing in there as well, which is to be expected from this beer style. But mainly, it's a nice kind of brown sugary note that comes out of this. A little bit of a sweet caramel, a little bit toasted at the same time, and definitely some kind of biscuity malts as well. But I think the dominating aroma of this one is quite a toasty, well-fired brown sugar, if that makes sense. It's not overly burnt, if you like, but it just has that nice little bit of a kind of toasty aroma to it, I have to say. So keep that in mind when you're having a look at this beer. So nothing particularly surprising about the aroma of this one, but the thing with these beers is you always want to see what subtleties it is that come to the fore. You know, you'll always have different kind of things with different examples of this style, but to me this one has a nice bready backbone to it, nice sort of almost rye breadish, German rye bread quality, but then it's got a lot of the nice kind of toasty brown sugars. The hops are what you'd expect, a nice little bit of earthiness, slightly sweet earthiness as you'd expect from the Hallertau or the Tettnanger hops. A little bit of bright floral quality and some nice grassiness. I mean, overall I would say that it's interesting with this because the hops in this beer I think lean a little bit towards the earthy side of things, but that suits the more toasty aroma that this beer has. But you do get a bit of grassiness out of it in fairness as well. On the fruity side of things, you know, you've got a little bit of a slightly figgy note to this beer, perhaps a little bit of blackcurrant, blackberry, that kind of thing as well, which is to be expected of this particular beer style. But I mean, overall the aroma comes across really quite nicely, a nice bready, quite toasty German Dunkel beer with a little bit of a fruity note on the end as well. So overall it's a really, really nice looking beer, this one. So let's just have a taste of it and see how we get on. As I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma before you get stuck in. But this one is the Dunkel export beer at 5.2% from the Gräfliches Hofbrauhaus Freising, if I've pronounced that correctly. Let's get stuck into this one and see how we go on. One of my favourite styles of traditional German beer. Slange, Skål, Prost. Yeah, that's pretty nice actually. Obviously it's clearing the stuff out of my throat as well. But yeah, with this beer, it actually comes across as a lot more bready in the aroma than I was quite expecting. It leans definitely more towards the bready side of things in the flavour than it does compared to the aroma. But yeah, it's another very, very solid example of the Dunkel. One of the more bready ones that I've come across from Germany. I mean, as I've told you before, you've got these German style lager beers and then you've got the Czech ones, and I've always said the Czech ones are a bit more bready than the German ones. The German ones I think are a bit more kind of crisp and things like that, but this is definitely one of the more bready examples that you'll find on the German side of the spectrum, definitely. And you can see how dangerously drinkable these beers are. But yeah, let's try and break the flavour of this one down a little bit then. So straight away, middle of your palate, you're going to get that nice, smooth, brown bready malt. That just blankets the middle of your palate there. On top of that, and the further you go into the aftertaste, you can feel the brown sugars. The brown sugars almost feel as if they're kind of infused into it a little bit. But as you move into the very centre of your palate, you'll get like almost a little kind of circle, if you like, and that's where the kind of toasty, brown sugary kind of caramel notes, pardon me, push their way out of the beer, which is really nice. I think we need another pour, don't we? Dangerous thing about these German beers, ridiculously drinkable. But yeah, the way that the brown sugars come out in this one, it's a lot less pronounced than you might have thought from the aroma, I have to say. But I really like how this beer goes together actually. This is another very, very solid example. But I mean, the thing is, with German breweries, the thing that's amazing about German beer is the fact that they can brew such good beer on the big scale. I don't know how big exactly this brewery is. I couldn't find out how much they actually brew, but quite a lot of German breweries will produce very, very good beer, and the standard is very good on the massive scale. You know, it's insane. That's the great thing about the German beers. But to me, this one is really nice. As I say, nice kind of brown bready base to it. If you go to the front corners of your palate, then move in from the sides a little bit, you'll get a little touch of a woody note to this one. And likewise, if you go to the very centre of your palate and move forward a bit, you'll get a little touch of a kind of nutty thing coming out of this beer as well. But yeah, some nice kind of brown bready qualities in there. As you move on top of that, as you move towards the centre of the tongue, you've got a little bit of a kind of caramelly note out of this one, but it's quite a toasty, well-fired caramel, and as you move out of the centre of the palate, you've got a nice kind of biscuity, almost biscuity note to this one as well, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, that's a really nice, the way the malt base in this one goes together is quite nice. I mean, you can get Dunkels that are a bit sweeter than this, you can get ones that are a little bit more kind of woody and stuff, you know, but I think this is just a very nice example of the Dunkel style. I think they've done a really nice job with this one, so thumbs up to them for this. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, there's a little touch of earthiness there. As you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, that just smooths out a little bit. You get a nice little bit of a floral aromaticity on the front corners of your palate, and then as you go round the kind of front curve of the tongue, it's just that little bit lighter and grassy. And then behind the front curve of the palate, you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy, fruity esters start to come out of the beer. I would say that overall, the hoppy side of this beer, again, it does lean a little bit towards the earthiness, which is quite nice. That suits the sort of darker brown sugar side that this beer has, that kind of toasty thing. It's almost as if the brown sugars in this beer are just a little bit more kind of caramelised and thick compared to some other Dunkels. But yeah, on the fruity side of things then, this is where the beer gets a little bit interesting as well. Yeah, so for me, the fruity side of this beer, it's got a little bit of blackcurrant. That comes out further into the aftertaste. I think initially it's a little touch figgy, but then further into the aftertaste that you go, you can feel it becomes a little bit more like blackcurranty and almost slightly blackberry, but I'm really tempted more to say blackcurrant than blackberries, to be honest with you. So overall, it's quite a bready Dunkel, this one, although the aroma would really make you think that it is more of a kind of brown sugary Dunkel, to be honest with you. It's a really nice example of the style, I have to say. So, you know, thumbs up to Hofbrauhaus Freising on this one. They've definitely produced quite a nice beer here, and this one makes me quite curious to see how their other beers turn out. I'd like to have a look at their Weizen. I've been feeling the need to review some more Weizens on the channel over the last week while, because I feel I haven't done too many. I always go through phases like that. I want to review a load of Dunkels and Doppelbocks, and then I want to review some Weizens and things, but regardless, I always enjoy doing my my German beer reviews. But this is another example of another good example of a style that I really quite enjoy. In terms of the mouthfeel of this one then, let's talk about that. You know, it's at the bottom end of mid-bodied, this beer. Carbonation is very smooth, which again is what you'd expect from a German beer. The German beers I've always found are very, very smooth. You've got a nice little bit of... you do have a bit of crispness to this beer as well, in fairness, and I would say this one's a little bit of an oily beer, but you will expect that a bit from the Dunkels. The Dunkels and the Doppelbocks are a little bit more oily, I think, in their mouthfeel compared to other German styles. But you've got a nice mix. The malt base in this one is quite smooth. You've got a little bit of toastiness to it, and you will find that it dries out the further you go into the aftertaste, and so you get that nice little bit of sweetness and smoothness out of this beer. But you've also got a little bit of hoppiness to this beer. I think you're only talking about 25 IBUs or something though, in fairness, and you've also got a little bit of a juicy, fruity quality. But overall, like I said, pardon me, getting a bit of gas out of it. But compared to other German Dunkels, I find this one to be a little bit more bready, and the brown sugars are a little bit more kind of caramelised and syrupy and things like that. But overall, it's a really, really nice beer, this one. And I'm glad that I was able to review this for you. It's cool to review another brewery from a town that is quite famous, of course, for such a famous brewery, and it's cool to come across another brewery that is pretty damn old, I have to say. I mean, the oldest breweries in Germany, Weinstefan, and then you've got Weltenberg just after, and there's a bit of a conflict between those two as to who is actually the oldest, because Weinstefan stopped for a while and then was kind of reincarnated, if you like, but cool to come across another very, very old German brewery. So do let me know about that in the comment section below. It'd be really cool to try more beer from some of the very old German breweries such as this one, because I know there are a good few kind of kicking around actually. But yeah, another very nice example of the German Dunkel style, and if you find yourself in Munich, definitely take a little trip up to Freising, a really beautiful little town, and definitely worth taking a look at for Weinstefan, and also for these guys if you're a fan of German beer like me. But yeah, let's just leave it at that for this one. This one is the Dunkel Export, a really nice kind of bready Dunkel, this one, from the Gräfliches Hofbrauhaus Freising to the northeast of Munich. Awesome to be able to review this beer for you, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed my take on it as well. So let's leave it at that. Until the next time, it's Slangy just now. Thank you for watching my beer reviews. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from the Gräfliches Hofbrauhaus Freising as well. I'm sure I'll return to these guys at some point in the near future. Do let me know what your other, do let me know some other breweries in that area that I might not have heard of, and do give me some other examples of Dunkels that you think I should check out, because this is a style that I really enjoy. Make sure you check out my social media, and I will catch you guys very soon. The Dunkel Export beer from the Gräfliches Hofbrauhaus Freising to the northeast of Munich in Bavaria in Germany. Until the next time, Slange just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slange, Skull, Prost, make sure you check out this beer. Cheers.